Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry. I was waiting for Jeff to get me hyped up because I saw this roster and I'm sorry. I'm getting back on my feet here from a flu. The roster's terrible. We're gonna go through it. When you exclude the goalkeepers, there's like maybe four field players worth talking about that could be in the USMNT B roster, maybe in the future in the A roster. But um, to make things short, it's a shit roster. But before we start, if you're a San Antonio Spurs fan, I found out why your team sucks ass this season, which they really do. The Spurs are in last place in the conference, and they welcomed head coach Gregg Berhalter. Here it is to their match last night, and here it is: San Antonio Spurs, Gregg Berhalter. Look at this monstrosity right here. Look at that. And now you know. Now you know why the Spurs sit in dead last in the Western Conference. A team that, I mean, the Spurs have been sucking for the past few seasons, but when I was growing up, the Spurs were consistently good. But I'm old. I'm old. That was the Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili era, Greg Popovich. But anyhow, if you're wondering why they suck, now you know. But let's go through the roster because this is actually what the stream is meant to be about for Camp Cupcake. And then we have here Camp Cupcake. Gregg Berhalter brought 25 players. 25 players. And before I start, let me go through Jeff's super chat saying, Tack, Happy New Year. I missed you. Nothing gets more zesty than Camp Cupcake announcement. How are you doing? Do anything kinky over the holidays? No, I didn't. I behaved over the holidays. I was actually very sick. Happy New Year to everyone. I hope you all have a tremendous 2024. I hope it's a great year for everyone. And that's all. I didn't really do anything special. And then now we're going to start to ramp up the content for 2024. The USMNT Abroad series is back on Monday. Then Wednesday, Thursday, we have two great episodes. And then obviously we have the coverage of Camp Cupcake, which I'm not a big fan of Camp Cupcake. I'm not going to lie. But it is the national team. And I think as we've committed here at the channel to covering the national team, and I talked about this in the past, like during the World Cup, we could have shifted and gone on to cover global soccer because those were getting a lot more views. But we want to continue to do what we're good at and what we enjoy doing it. So we continue to cover the U.S. men's national team. And as a channel that covers the U.S. men's national team, it's our responsibility to cover Camp Cupcake. Whether we like it or not, we cover it. And Julian Viva is saying, I wanted to see Reed Baker, Chris Brady, Obed Vargas, Brian Gutierrez, Jalen Neal, Fidel Barajas. Me too. I wanted to see these players, but we got some very weird, call-ups here. I mean, I'm gonna enjoy the game against Slovenia that we're gonna play, whatever team they're bringing. But it is a bit weird. Now, we start the roster with the goalkeepers: Drake Callender from Inter Miami, Roman Celentano from FC Cincinnati, and Patrick Schultz from Columbus Crew. In my opinion, that's fine. These are probably the best American goalkeepers in Major League Soccer. We're not bringing any players internationally. And honestly, these are players that can fight for a roster spot in the A squad. Drake Callender for Inter Miami, good shot stopper. Roman Celentano, young, promising goalkeeper from Cincinnati, actually good goalkeeper already. And Patrick Schultz just won MLS Cup with Columbus Crew. So the goalkeepers are fine, right? The goalkeepers are fine. I have no issues there. But when we get to like the field players, for the most part, it's just crap. Like Nathan Harrell, whatever, from Philadelphia Union. Honestly, I don't know jack crap about this player. Just gonna be honest with you guys, as always. I don't know. I don't care to know. Doesn't matter to me. I believe. Let me look up here real quick. This is embarrassing, but I'm gonna do it anyway. 22-year-old defender from the Philadelphia Union. Honestly, I haven't watched the Philadelphia Union this season enough to talk about him, so I'm gonna skip. If you guys watched him, you let me know. But I'm sorry, not rating this guy. Dejuan Jones. Dejuan Jones, I've watched quite a bit. I think Dejuan Jones is a decent player, good MLS player. That he is one of them that definitely a USMNT B roster player. Dejuan Jones can play right back and play left back, but not really fighting for that A roster spot. But Dejuan Jones in this roster is one of the players I don't have an issue with. Shaq Moore from Nashville, we've seen enough you know, we've seen enough Shaq Moore, especially in the World Cup. He was probably one of the worst players in the World Cup, not for the United States, but in general. But he's here, Shaq Moore. Ian Murphy from Cincinnati, decent MLS player. Don't see him playing for the national team, so couldn't care less. Jackson Reagan from the Seattle Sounders. Isn't he like he's in his like mid-20s at this point? He's a defender from the Seattle Sounders. His mid-20s, like nothing for the US. He's got nothing for the US men's national team. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Miles Robinson from FC Cincinnati, definitely a USMNT B roster player. So Miles being here makes sense. I know we're angry at Miles that he didn't go to Europe. I personally think he could have gone to Europe. I don't know what offers he had, but I think he could have been successful depending on where he landed. But he's staying MLS at least for one more season. And yep, there you have it. Miles Robinson is here. James Sands from New York City FC. Probably also a B roster player, so it makes sense that he's in Camp Cupcake. I'm fine with that. Nakosi Tafari from FC Dallas has no business being with the U.S. men's national team. John Tolkien from the New York Red Bulls. John Tolkien is a player that is definitely a B roster player, and he could compete to be the backup of A-Rob. So John Tolkien being here is good. I think John Tolkien, he really stepped up for the New York Red Bulls this season. So Tolkien here, good. Caleb Wiley, young, promising left back. Probably not a B roster player right now, in my opinion, at the left back position, but definitely in the U20s, the USMNT U20s. Possibly will be in the Olympic roster. Promising left back. I'm fine with Caleb Wiley being here. I think this camp should be mainly focused, this specific camp should be mainly focused on young upcoming prospects and dual nationals we're recruiting and B roster players. But then you have some players here like Nathan right here. Like he's not a he's like a USMNT Z roster player. Shaq Moore shouldn't be there. Ian Murphy shouldn't be there. Jackson Reagan shouldn't be there. Tafari shouldn't be there. Like there's names like that in the defender pool. But when you go to the midfielders, you got Joshua Atencio from the Seattle Sounders. He's young, so I can't. How young is Atencio? Probably like 20. I don't see him ever being USMNT quality, but again, he's here. Like who cares? Jackson from St. Louis. I believe Jackson was an attacking midfielder for them this season, or maybe a winger. He's like 22, 23. I watched him a few times with St. Louis. Not USMNT quality, so sure, bring him in here, but it's not a player that has any business with the U.S. men's national team. Jack McGlynn, young, promising player for the U.S. men's national team. I don't see him in the roster anytime soon, but again, young players, it's okay for them to be here. Aiden Morris, USMNT B roster player. Young enough, he's like 22 or 23, just won MLS Cup. I'm fine with Aiden Morris being here. Timothy Tillman from LAFC. He's the brother of Malik Tillman. Didn't make it in Europe, came to LAFC, mostly starts for them. Probably a USMNT B or C roster player. Like you guys can see that my energy is just low because like there's no other way to put it. I'm just gonna say it. The roster's shit. Like that's literally the best way to describe it. I know we say Camp Cupcake, and I don't mean to disrespect any of these players. They're here. They were called in. They're just gonna do their job, show up and play. But it's just honestly a shit roster. And then Tim Tillman, and then Sean Zawadski. Sean Zawadski from the Columbus Crew. Dude, he played in their midfield. I believe he's a central midfielder, Sean Zawadski from Columbus. I watched some of their games. I don't really remember him. So there you have it. That's how important he is. And I don't think Sean Zawadski is young. Power of Music. All I'm seeing is this roster are frauds. Who's and Luna. Yeah, I wouldn't even call them frauds. It's just like these guys shouldn't be here for the most part. Forwards, we got Esmir Bajratarevic. And if you remember, he was in one of the U20 rosters or Olympic roster too, because we covered here at the channel. He's a winger from the New England Revolution. Then you got Cade Cowell from the San Jose Earthquakes. He didn't really have a good season in MLS, but Cade is young. So again, I'm not going to bash on young players, dual nationals, or USMNT B roster players being this roster. I'm okay with those being here. Bernard Camungo from FC Dallas. Camungo's what, like 22, I think? So not that young by any means. Had some good moments for FC Dallas later in the season. To me, he also has no business being with the U.S. men's national team A or B roster. And I mean, 22 is not that young, so whatever, man. Diego Luna, promising player for the U.S. men's national team. That really, not U.S. men's national team, but like youth teams, probably one of the Olympic roster players. And he looked really good. He looked really good for RSL later in the season in MLS. Makes sense. I'm good with Luna being here. Duncan McGuire from Orlando City. Guys, as you may know, I watched, I'd say probably 95% of Orlando City games last season. Duncan McGuire is not good. Like, I'm going to get shit from Orlando City fans. I'm going to get crap from it, but he's not good. He's not good. The guy is very limited from a technical ability standpoint. He drastically overperformed his expected goals. I don't think he'll keep up that goal ratio coming in. Eventually, he became a starter. And I even talked about this in regards to Orlando City. Orlando City has a decent team that could compete for an MLS Cup with like two major signings. They signed Lodeiro. That's a good signing, but that's not enough. But you're not going to win MLS Cup with Duncan McGuire as your starting center forward. I'm sorry. The guy plays like he's wearing jeans pants. Can't really put those knees up. Just a very like athletic, strong center forward. Like, sure, put him in this roster for whatever reason. There's a few names that are not here. That's a bit odd for Camp Cupcake, but yeah, he's there. Then you got Brian White from the Vancouver Whitecaps. He also has no business being in the U.S. men's national team. What I find fascinating to me is when you look into it, a lot of Berhalter's boys, like Berhalter's favorites from the last cycle, no Roldan, no Morris, no Acosta, no Areola, no Jesus. That's a bit weird. No Jesus Ferreira. That is very weird for Gregg Berhalter. No Walker Zimmerman. These are players that you would expect Berhalter to bring to a Camp Cupcake. But no Jesus, no Zimmerman. That's a bit weird. Hasn't called in Zimmerman once since he returned. That's odd. Hasn't called in Acosta once since he returned. Hasn't called in Jesus Ferreira once since he returned. Reasoning for that, it beats the living crap out of me. Yeah, they're also saying here, no Aaron Long, which I'm happy with that, but no Aaron Long also. Well, Greg wasn't calling up Zardes for a while, but this is the roster. I'm gonna read what U.S. Soccer posts. Let's read the full article that U.S. Soccer put out. But these names not being there is a bit odd, in my opinion. But before I read the article, because I need to pay rent this month, a quick word from our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. If you guys haven't played it, the link is on the description of this video. I think it is.
And thank you, Underdog Fantasy, for sponsoring Tactical Manager TV. Underdog Fantasy is a fun game to play prior to any soccer match, or basketball, or football as well, but we don't talk about those two in Tactical Manager TV. Sometimes basketball during live watch-alongs. I have been playing Underdog Fantasy for over a year now. You can download the app by using the link on the description of this video, and you can also use the promo code TMTV. And Underdog will be matching your first deposit for up to $100. And in the process, you'll be helping the channel avoid bankruptcy. The game I mainly play is called Pick'em. You just click on it, scroll to the soccer section, and pick a player for a specific match and select the stats that you believe will be lower or higher. It's very easy to play, but be smart about your picks because it's not easy to win. I'll be playing some Underdog Fantasy during some match live streams or match live watch-alongs, so stay tuned for that, as I will be forced to cheer for a player or root against him. Now, I am a professional hater, so I'll probably be rooting for the player's downfall. Once again, don't forget to use the promo code TMTV and use the link on the description of this video. Thank you, Underdog Fantasy, for sponsoring the channel.
Okay, the link is on the description if you want to play Underdog Fantasy. And here's the article. 25 players called for the U.S. men's national team January Camp Cupcake in Orlando ahead of USA Slovenia. Orlando? We play in San Antonio. Okay, we play in San Antonio, but these players are in Orlando. So they're going to be practicing here like close to where I live. I mean, I live in Orlando, and I know where they're going to be practicing. I don't think I'm going to care enough to go check it out. But they're going to be here in Orlando. Hey, maybe they can go to Disney. 3 players each are named from the MLS Cup winner Columbus Crew and Supporter Shield winner FC Cincinnati. 13 players are age eligible for the 2024 Olympics. That doesn't mean much. Record crowd will be in attendance in San Antonio for I don't know if I believe this. Record crowd will be in attendance in San Antonio. Are they? I know you guys have a USL team and probably have some incredible diehards there, but do people really care about this game? Like, this is a terrible roster against Slovenia, and Slovenia is probably bringing a domestic-based team that's probably not very good. I don't know, man. We'll see. We'll see what the crowd. And here's Gregg Berhalter. In case you guys missed him, here's a picture of him. Look at that. Look at that guy. Very handsome guy. Great guy. Not really. They go on and they say, with a massive year of important official competitions on the horizon, the U.S. men's national team head coach has called 25 MLS-based players to Orlando for the annual U.S. men's national team January training camp, the Camp Cupcake. With the match date falling outside of the FIFA international window, the training camp and match against Slovenia provide a huge opportunity for the next generation to make a statement during an important year for the U.S. men's national team programs, which includes an opportunity to win a 3rd straight CONCACAF Nations League championship in March, as well as compete in the prestigious Copa America and the 2024 Olympics. Training camp will start around January 8th to 16th in Orlando. The team will then head to San Antonio to open its 2024 schedule with a friendly against Slovenia January 20th. Coverage for the United States' first match of the year begins 3 p.m. Eastern Time at TNT, Telemundo, Universo, and Peacock, in case anyone gives a crap about this game. What I find interesting about this roster, like I said, there's not many names that matter, right? There's a bunch of names that don't. And I want to ask you all a question here, because what happens is every time the national team plays, it's an opportunity to draw in more fans or to push more fans away. When someone that occasionally follows the national team or barely follows the national team comes on to watch, right? To watch a game like this, does this drive them away from the national team or closer when you put these players to play? I don't know, man. I mean, it is what it is. I'm just looking at the roster, and let's see what they had to say here. I think this is Berhalter said. This is what Berhalter said. This is an opportunity to identify and work with the next generation of players who have the potential to make an impact on our program, Berhalter said. We appreciate the support from MLS and all the clubs that can utilize the platform. Our priority is to get as many players as possible experience in important competitions. And this camp and the match against Slovenia will be extremely valuable in the evaluation process. How can this be extremely valuable in the evaluation process? We're facing a terrible opponent that's going to bring like Slovenia itself is already okay. They're not great. And then they're not sending their best here. They're sending their like domestic league players, obviously, because it's a FIFA window. How is this a great, valuable moment to evaluate players? Like, seriously. And then look at the players you're bringing. Like, Ian Murphy, Jackson Rigg, he's like 25, dude. He's not the next generation. The dude is 20 freaking 5. Like I said, look, the goalkeepers are fine. I'm going to go. The goalkeepers are fine. Caleb Wiley, John Token, Dejuan Jones, Miles Robinson. So that's like Miles Robinson, Token, Wiley, Dejuan Jones. That's 4. Aiden Morris, that's 5. Jack McGlynn, that's 6. Diego Luna, that's 7. That's about it. There's like, besides the goalkeepers, there's like 7 players that are okay to be in this roster. They're not A roster players, but they're okay to be here. It's just a load of crap. And then trophy holders, MLS Cup win, who gives a crap? It doesn't really matter. Chance to make their case. It's oh boy. Yeah, I'm going to put this out here. Look, it's the USMNT Camp Cupcake. We're going to do a live watch along for the game, obviously. But it's more or less a useless camp at this point. It should have been just U23 players or just a U20 camp. Only bring the young prospects. That's it. But we'll watch it. We'll watch it, and this is a good one here too. Jeff is saying, Tack, I'm very disappointed in you, not able to influence U.S. soccer. I have zero influence on U.S. Soccer Federation. Zero. The guy's podcast saying, bro, he's not saying they're bad because they're in MLS. He's saying they're bad because they're bad. Yeah. Who's saying that they're bad because they're in MLS? There's a few players in this roster that are good and are in MLS. Players are not bad because they're in MLS. They're bad because they're bad. MLS has good players, and most of the best players in MLS are actually not American, like most of the good American players. Let's see here. Gojo saying, I feel you're only saying they're bad because they're in MLS. We need to build up depth. No, we're not building up depth with most of these players. I'm sorry. No one's bad because they're in MLS. Messi's in MLS, and Messi would be by far the best player the United States has. There's other players in MLS that would make the U.S. men's national team that are not American. So nothing to do with MLS. We need to stop with this nonsense that if you criticize an MLS player, it's because he's in MLS. No. Like, there's MLS players that should be here, and we talked about it. Jalen Neal should be here too. I don't know what's the reasoning if they weren't released. I don't know the criteria. It's just, it has nothing to do with where they play, because no one here is calling for certain players. And like, no one wants Emmanuel Sabi. Emmanuel Sabi in the last Camp Cupcake, if you remember, he was the most criticized player. Guess what? He plays in France. So if we criticize Emmanuel Sabi, are we hating on Ligue 1? For fuck's sakes, like, seriously, we need to stop this whole narrative of like, you criticize MLS players because you hate MLS. We need to stop that. It's just stupid. It's lazy. It's not the case. And like I said, there are players here that play in MLS and should be there. But everyone, play Underdog Fantasy if you want. The link is on the description. We have the USMNT Abroad episode coming out on Monday. And then next week, I have 2 videos coming out, the full USMNT 2024 schedule, and also U.S. men's national team goals for 2024, what we need to accomplish. Drop a like in this video before you go if you haven't already, and let me know if there's anything you like about this roster, and give me 2 players that you would have liked to see in this roster. I think that's the best question. 2 players you would have liked to see in this January Camp Cupcake roster. I kind of gave you a few of mine. Jalen Neal's definitely one of them. And surprise names that weren't there, like Jesus not being there, was a bit of a surprise because it's Greg. But anyhow, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Happy 2024. Thanks for watching. Ciao. Do always appreciate when someone sends a super chat, but come on, guys, you got to send it before I leave. Julian Viva is saying Noah Allen, Ben Kramaski, Brendan Craig are also other options I like. I'd be surprised if Greg didn't call his son. Yeah, let's hope he doesn't do that. All right, thank you. Bye.